Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. Now, if you happen to be in Manhattan right now, specifically over on the west side, near Pier 76 at the Classic Car Club, you might notice the vibe is, well, a little different than usual.
Yeah.
Usually that place is ground zero for vintage Ferraris, maybe a McLaren launch, a lot of talk about burning rubber. But today,
The crowd isn't looking at the asphalt, they're strictly looking up.
well, technically, they're looking at something that's designed to go up. But you're right. The star of the show this week has left the road behind entirely.
We are talking about the Valo. It's the new eVTOL that's electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft from Vertical Aerospace. And the reason we're flagging this today isn't just because it looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. It's because this is the production model. It's making its U.S. debut right now as we speak.
This isn't just a render?
No, it's a physical machine that they actually intend to put paying passengers in. And that is a massive psychological shift. I mean, we've spent the last decade seeing flying cars in, PowerPoint presentations.
Right, or wobbly prototypes hovering like 3 feet off the ground.
Exactly. But seeing a certification-ready aircraft sitting there in New York City with actual flight paths already mapped out by partners like Bristow and Skyports, it just moves the conversation from if to when.
And that, I think, brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We are going to look at the Valo, sure, but we really need to zoom out because while everyone is staring at this shiny electric air taxi, the rest of the aviation industry is going through this chaotic, almost bizarre transformation.
It really is a landscape of extremes right now. On one hand, you've got these silent battery-powered vehicles promising to end traffic jams.
The future.
And on the other, you have giants like United Airlines betting billions on massive, heavy metal fleets.
Yeah.
And this is the part that really confuses people. You have this economic reality where brand new jets are being ripped apart for spare parts.
That part sounds completely backwards to me. We are definitely going to unpack all of that. We want to cut through the aerospace jargon. We'll skip the load factors and MROs and figure out what this all actually means for how we move around the world. So, tone check here.
Yeah.
We're keeping this accessible. If you don't have a pilot's license, you're in the right place.
Exactly. I mean, whether you're a frequent flyer or just someone wondering why your summer vacation tickets are so expensive, these shifts, they affect you.
All right, let's start with the headline event. The Valo. It's sitting there at the Classic Car Club. So paint the picture for us. What are we actually looking at?
It's a really striking piece of engineering. Vertical Aerospace retired their old prototype, the VX4, which taught them a lot. The Valo is, let's call it the grown-up version.
Okay.
It's designed to carry 4 passengers initially, but expandable to 6, plus a pilot.
And the specs. What can it actually do in the real world?
So the range is about 100 miles. Top speed hits 150 miles per hour. And the big one, especially for city planners, 0 operating emissions.
I have to push back on the range for a second. 100 miles, I saw some chatter on Reddit where people were kind of unimpressed.
Yeah, I saw that.
They were saying, that doesn't even get me from NYC to DC. Is that a valid critique? Because 100 miles, it feels a little short.
It is a common critique,
Yeah.
but I think it fundamentally misunderstands the mission profile. This isn't a regional jet replacement.
It's not trying to be that.
Exactly. You aren't taking the Valo to a business meeting in Chicago.
Yeah.
You're taking it to skip, the 2 hours of gridlock on the Van Wyck Expressway. It's designed for high-frequency, short hops across a big city.
So it's a time machine, not a distance machine.
Precisely. And this is where the comparison to helicopters is so critical. Because usually when people see the Valo, they just shrug and say, okay, sure, it's a fancy, quiet helicopter for rich people.
Sure.
But the economics tell a completely different story.
Yeah.
We found a statistic in the research that, honestly, it feels like a typo until you check it.
This was the maintenance stat. Yeah, I highlighted this like 3 times in my notes.
Right. So if you look at a conventional helicopter, it is a mechanical nightmare. You have this massive transmission, a swash plate to tilt the blades, a combustion engine just vibrating everything to death. For every 1 hour a helicopter spends in the air, it requires roughly 3 hours of maintenance on the ground.
3 hours of wrench turning for 1 hour of flying. Okay, that explains why a helicopter ride to the airport costs like $800.
Exactly. It's not just price gouging, it's the cost of keeping the machine safe. It's just wildly inefficient. Now, look at the Valo.
Okay.
Because it uses electric motors, which have basically one moving part and no complex transmission, the projection is that it will require about 1 minute of service for every hour of flight.
Wait, hold on. I need to process that. 3 hours versus 1 minute. That's
Yeah.
not an improvement. That's a different species.
It is a total paradigm shift. It completely changes the business model from luxury charter to scalable transit. That efficiency is why they can talk about pricing. They could rival an Uber Black. You just can't do that with a helicopter unless you want to go bankrupt in a week.
But what about safety? I mean, helicopters have a reputation. If the engine quicks, you have to auto-rotate, basically glide down like a spinning brick. Does the Valo solve that?
It solves it through redundancy. A helicopter usually has 1, maybe 2 points of failure. The Valo has distributed propulsion.
So multiple motors.
Multiple motors.
Mm-hmm.
If one fails, the computer instantly balances the load across the others to keep you stable. They're building this to airliner safety standards. The target is a 1 in a billion chance of catastrophic failure.
1 in billion is that a bold claim for a new technology.
It is, but that's the bar for certification. And the other big factor is noise. Helicopters beat the air into submission. That's that wop-wop sound that rattles your windows. The Valo is designed to just blend into the ambient noise of a city. You might not even look up when one passes over.
So if everything goes to plan, and if is doing a lot of lifting here, what does a trip look like in, say, 2028?
Well, the routes they're proposing with partners like Bristow they're game changers. Imagine landing at JFK after a long international flight. You're exhausted.
Right.
Instead of a 90-minute slog in a cab to Manhattan, you walk to the vertiport, board a Valo, and you take a 7-minute flight to the downtown Skyport.
7 minutes? I feel like I'd spend 7 minutes just waiting for the elevator at JFK.
Probably.
Yeah.
They're also looking at the leisure market, weekend trips to East Hampton Airport.
Of course.
Or a game day access to MetLife Stadium. Imagine bypassing the Giants' game traffic entirely. But the use case that might actually scale the fastest is medical transfers.
Getting patients between hospitals?
Right. Westchester County Medical Center to NYU Langone. In a critical situation, traffic can be fatal. A 5-minute flight instead of a 40-minute ambulance ride could literally save lives.
That's where you get the public buy-in. It's much harder to complain about the noise of an aircraft that's carrying a donor organ. It's fascinating to see it moving from sci-fi concept to here is the actual route map. But let's look under the hood a bit. You mentioned this is the grown-up version. What actually changed from the VX4 to the Valo? Because to my untrained eye, they look pretty similar.
It's all about refinement based on real-world data. They flew the VX4, they gathered terabytes of telemetry, and they found the inefficiencies.
Okay.
The fuselage in the Valo is cleaner, more aerodynamic. They tweaked the wing and propeller configurations to reduce drag. But the biggest structural shift is the battery.
What'd they do with it?
In a lot of the early prototypes, batteries were often placed wherever they fit, just to balance the weight or for easy access. On the Valo, they've moved to a liquid-cooled system that's located under the floor.
Oh, interesting. So similar to the skateboard chassis we see in electric cars like Teslas.
Exactly the same concept. And this does 2 things. One, it frees up cabin space passengers don't want to be squeezed next to a hot battery pack. But 2, and this is really smart, it future-proofs the plane. Well, battery check is evolving incredibly fast. Solid-state batteries are on the horizon.
Right.
By putting the battery system under the floor in a modular tray, they can easily swap in better, lighter, more powerful batteries 5 years from now without having to redesign the whole airframe.
That's thinking about the asset's life cycle, not just launch day. And this connects to that broader report we looked at, the one on 15 emerging technologies. It feels like the whole industry is shifting its materials, not just the flying cars.
Oh, completely. We're seeing a massive move from aluminum to carbon fiber composites. The Valo uses them, but so do the big jets like the Boeing 787 and the Airbus A350.
And they're just lighter and stronger.
Lighter, stronger, and crucially, they don't corrode or fatigue like metal does. It just means planes last longer and burn less fuel.
And electrification isn't just for the engines, right? We're seeing more electric aircraft in the commercial sector, too.
Correct. In the past, things like braking systems or cabin pressurization were driven by these heavy hydraulic loops, literally pipes full of fluid running through the plane. Now, those are being replaced by electric actuators. It saves weight, which again saves fuel. And speaking of fuel, we can't ignore SAF's sustainable aviation fuel.
This is the fuel made from, like, waste oil and cooking grease. I always find it wild that we might be flying on old French fry oil.
That's the one. And it can reduce carbon emissions by up to 80%. Engines are now being certified to run on higher and higher blends of this stuff. It's really the essential bridge to sustainability while we wait for hydrogen or electric propulsion to scale up for the big jets.
Okay, so that's the cutting edge, the electric, composite, silent future. But let's pivot to the heavy metal, the commercial aviation landscape. Because while air taxis are handling the last mile, the big airlines are making some pretty serious moves that feel a bit old school.
They are absolutely doubling down on what works. United Airlines is a prime example.
Hmm.
They just announced they're adding 20 of the Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners to their fleet in 2026.
Is that a significant number for a major carrier like that?
It's their largest wide-body expansion since 1988, since the Reagan administration. That tells you something about their confidence in long-haul international travel. And they aren't just buying planes, they're retrofitting them with this new Elevate interior.
What does elevate mean for me, the passenger?
It means more premium seats, better business class. They are betting big that people are willing to pay for luxury on those long flights. The days of just cramming as many economy seats as possible might be shifting just slightly in favor of higher margins per seat.
And it's not just U.S. carriers. We saw that Titan Aviation acquired a Boeing 777-300ER specifically to lease to China Airlines.
Right. And that's a strategic play for Asia-Pacific tourism. That whole region is booming, and they need big planes to move lots of people efficiently. Global aviation revenue is set to pass $1 trillion by 2026. The demand is back, and it is massive.
Okay, so demand is up, revenue is up, airlines are buying planes, but here is where it gets really weird. You mentioned earlier that new planes are being taken apart. Explain that to me, because that sounds like buying a new Ferrari and selling the steering wheel. Why on earth would you dismantle a revenue-generating asset?
It sounds totally insane, but it's a symptom of a deeply broken supply chain. We have a backlog of over 4,000 aircraft deliveries that are delayed globally. But the real pinch point is engines.
We don't have enough engines.
We don't have enough spare engines. Modern jet engines are incredibly complex. They run hotter than ever for efficiency, which means they need maintenance sooner. But the parts just aren't there.
Oh.
So you have this situation called opportunistic part out. Companies like AJW are taking relatively new aircraft like the Airbus A321neo and just dismantling them.
These are modern, fuel-efficient jets that should be flying passengers around.
State of the art. But here's the math. A working engine sitting on a parked plane is worth an absolute fortune if you can lease it to an airline that has a plane grounded because its engine is broken. The sum of the parts is currently greater than the value of the whole aircraft in operation for some owners.
That is wild. It's cannibalization. It's eating the young to feed the old.
It is, and it ties right into another concept that's booming, power by the hour.
I love that name. It sounds like a reality TV show.
It's a brilliant, if expensive, business model. See, historically, an airline paid for maintenance when something broke.
Right.
Power by the hour is like a subscription. Airlines pay a fixed rate for every hour they fly, and that covers all their maintenance and repairs.
So it's basically Apple Care for a Boeing 777.
Pretty much, yeah. And in this volatile market, where parts are scarce and prices are fluctuating wildly, airlines love the predictability. That market is growing to over $28 billion. It's a safety net for their budgets.
It's fascinating how the industry is adapting to these constraints. It's not just about flying. It's about managing assets in a scarce environment. But let's shift gears a little. We can't talk about aviation without talking about the personalities involved. And recently, we had a bit of a flare-up with everyone's favorite internet provocateur, Elon Musk, and the CEO of Ryanair.
Ah, yes. The feud. This was quite the spectacle.
So for anyone who missed it, Musk hopped on social media and suggested that Ryan Dahl, the creator of the software Node.js, should run Ryanair.
Which, on the surface, is a very specific, very odd suggestion. Why a software architect for a budget airline?
Right. Musk tweeted, does he have any interest in running an airline? But this seems to stem from a deeper beef, doesn't it?
Oh no, it's personal. It goes back to Ryanair CEO Michael O'Leary, rejecting Musk's Starlink internet for his planes. O'Leary basically said it cost too much and added too much drag.
And in typical O'Leary fashion.
He called Musk an idiot.
And Ryanair even launched a big idiot seat sale, right?
They leaned right into it. It was free marketing.
It's hilarious. But do you think there's something deeper here than just two billionaires shouting at each other? Or is it just ego?
I do think it's deeper. I think it highlights a real cultural tension in the industry. You have the traditional ruthless cost cutters like O'Leary. He runs an airline like a buzz company. It's efficient, cheap, no frills. His entire job is operations and margins. And then you have the Silicon Valley mindset Musk. To him, everything is an engineering problem. He sees aviation and thinks, this needs disruption. This needs a software mindset. Move fast and break things.
And O'Leary is saying, if I move fast and break things, people die and I go to jail.
Exactly. These two worldviews are just colliding. Musk suggesting a software engineer to run an airline implies he thinks aviation is just a code problem waiting to be solved. O'Leary believes it's a logistics war.
That's a great insight. And speaking of the workforce, it's not just software engineers being talked about. There's a massive hiring drive happening in the UAE right now that signals where the center of gravity might be shifting.
Huge. The Emirates companies like Sanad and Etihad are aggressively recruiting. But they aren't just looking for pilots. They're looking for AI specialists, data scientists, and technical engineers.
We saw that stat from Sanad. They want to ramp up their workforce significantly by the end of this year.
And they're focusing on local talent, too. It shows that the future of aviation isn't just about flying the plane. It's about managing the massive amounts of data the plane produces. Predictive maintenance, road optimization. That's the new battleground.
And looking even further ahead, we have students in North Carolina at ECSU doing some incredible work with 3D printing drones for search and rescue.
That was such a heartwarming story. Dr. Chandra Asana there said, things that were not possible earlier, we are making possible. They're building drones that can fly for 10 hours, helping with disaster management.
Wow.
It just reminds us that while we talk about billion-dollar airlines, the innovation often starts in a university lab with a 3D printer and a smart group of kids.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, we have to acknowledge a major anniversary. Yesterday, January 21st, marked 50 years since the Concorde's first commercial flight, Paris to Rio.
A legendary moment, January 21st, 1976.
It feels like such a contrast to what we were just talking about with the Valo.
It really is the perfect bookend to this conversation. The Concorde was a marvel of the 20th century. It was about raw power, Mach 2, speed at any cost.
Right.
But it was loud, it chugged fuel like there was no tomorrow, and it was incredibly exclusive.
And today.
Today, the new Concorde isn't a supersonic jet, though people are working on those. The real revolution is the Valo. It's about efficiency, sustainability, integration into our daily lives. We've really moved from how fast can we go to how smartly can we move.
Air France is releasing commemorative coins, but the industry has clearly moved on. It's less about breaking the sound barrier and more about not breaking the planet.
Precisely. The ambition hasn't shrunk. It's just matured.
So let's unpack this. What does all this mean for us, the people sitting in 32B or, waiting for a cab?
I think we're living in a really messy transition period. We have the Jetsons lifestyle knocking on the door with the Valo. We have the commercial giants scaling up with United. But we also have all this friction, the supply chain issues, the cannibalization of new planes. It's messy, but it is moving forward.
It feels like the technology is finally catching up to the dream, but the economics are still catching up to the reality.
That's a great way to put it.
So here's my final thought for you to chew on. We have the Valo targeting 2028. We have students building the next generation of tech. But are our cities actually ready? We're talking about turning the sky into a highway.
That is the big question, isn't it? You can build the perfect aircraft, but if you don't have the vertiports, the air traffic control for low-altitude flights, and the public acceptance, it just doesn't work.
So
Infrastructure, not technology, might be the final boss here.
infrastructure is the final boss. I like that. We will have to wait and see if New York can handle the traffic upstairs as well as it handles it on the ground.
Hopefully better.
Hopefully better. Well, that is a wrap for this deep dive. We hope this made the complex, sometimes chaotic world of aerospace a little clearer for you today.
It's always a pleasure to explore these shifts.
And we want to say a huge thank you to you, the listener. Thank you so much for lending us your ears and diving deep with us today. We know you have a choice in what you listen to, and we really appreciate you choosing us.
Yes, thank you for your time and curiosity.
Until next time, keep looking up.